Right, in this video, we want to talk about the definition of limits, and we're going to be considering the informal definition of limits. Right, great. Well, when we talk about limit of a function, we say that let f be a function defined on an open interval, right, containing a point c. So we are just talking about a certain interval. You know, an interval of number is there from 1 to 5, real numbers starting from 1 to 5. So that is an interval, right? In this case, we mean an open interval, which means that the silent points are not included. So if you're talking about a real line from A to B, right? So maybe this is point A, and then this is point B. So an interval from A to B, we mean every real number starting from point A to point B, right? But in this case, it's an open interval, meaning that the point A and the point B are not included, right? So we use the parentheses for that. A closed interval is going to be a normal bracket. In this case, the two endpoints A and B are going to be included. So if I'm saying from point 1 to point 5, that means here we mean every number line between 1 and 5, but a closed interval from point 1 to point 5 means every real number starting from point 1 all the way down to point 5. All right, great. So that's just the difference between a closed interval and an open interval. Okay, so we said that f should be a function defined on an open interval containing a point c, except possibly at c. So you know what it means for a function to be defined on a particular interval, on a particular domain. That is to say, every point from that interval will give us a real value of the function. Good. So there is no point where if you pick from there and you put into the function, the result is going to be undefined. We don't have such. So that's what it means for a function to be defined on an interval. Right. But so we say that it should be defined on an open interval containing a point c, except possibly at that point c. Well, it may be defined on every other point in that interval, but at this point C, which is inside the interval, it doesn't have to be defined. It may not be defined there. Okay? So, limit of functions is not concerned with the definition of a function at that point. It is concerned with the behavior of the function at that point. Great. So, a point C can be here, so we're just getting closer to it. What is our value getting closer to? Not actually the point itself. Alright, so it may not be defined at that point. Then suppose f gets closer to a real number called L as the input gets closer to C, right? Then L is called the limit of that function as x approaches C. Great. So suppose the value of a function gets closer to a certain number as our input gets closer to that point, C, point of consideration, then the limit, which is the L, is the limit of the function as x approaches c. Great. We can rewrite all these statements into this one line of mathematical equation. We have it to be limit, LIM, limit of f of x as x tends to c, right? And that is equal to L. So you say that the limit of that function as our input tends to that value or that point of consideration, that the limit is equal to L, given that as x gets closer, arbitrarily close to c, the value of a function gets closer and closer to L. Good. In our previous video where we introduced limit, I gave us a simple function that was a linear function, and we considered the function, let me just put it down here, that f of x is x plus 1. So we saw that as x gets closer and closer to 2, right, the limit of our function x plus 1, as x gets closer to 2, right, the result was getting closer to 3. So we can put it down as limit of x plus 1 as x gets closer to 2 is equal to 3. Well, you can just do this by substitution because this is a polynomial function. If you plug in 2 here, that is going to be in place of x, right? That will be 2 plus 1, which is giving us 3, right? If you plug in numbers close to 2 from the left, you'll be having numbers close to 3 from the left. If you plug in number close to 2 from the right, you're having numbers close to 3 from the right, right? Because this is an increasing function anyway. All right, great. Well, that was the definition of limit. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe to my channel.